Welcome back, guys. Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family also. Can you please tell me from where you're watching? Thanks. Hey, I'm Max. This all went down back in 2012, during my second year at a small community college in a town called Ash Pines. Not exactly a booming place, just a few gas stations, a diner or two, and the kind of silence at night that makes you hear things that aren't there. I couldn't get a dorm room after freshman year. Long story short, I ended up living in this weird shared housing setup on the edge of town. It was technically student housing, but unofficially run by this guy named Walter, who was rarely around. 3 old houses on a single property, grouped together like a mini neighborhood. My place was the middle one. Cheap rent, bike ride from campus, and utilities included. That was good enough for me. Most of the other residents were students, young, broke, and buried in coursework. But there were a few oddballs. One guy was pushing 40 and still doing his undergrad. There was a woman who used to be a librarian and talked to herself in the laundry room. You know, harmless weirdos. But then there was her. Everyone called her Miss Ruth. Miss Ruth lived in the house across from mine. She must have been in her late 60s, maybe older, but it was hard to tell. Her skin was pale and wrinkled like parchment, and her hair was thin and gray, always tied back with a velvet ribbon. She walked with this uneven shuffle, like one leg didn't quite work right, and her back was bent almost permanently. The first time I saw her, she was just standing in our shared kitchen, not cooking, not eating, just standing. Everyone else was bustling around, heating up ramen or talking about midterms. Ruth didn't join the conversation. She didn't even move. She stood in the corner, head tilted slightly, watching us like we were something on TV. No one said anything to her. Not even a nod, like they were pretending she wasn't there. I remember locking eyes with her just for a second. Her stare was completely blank, like a doll that had forgotten what it was supposed to be. That night stuck with me, but I tried to shrug it off. Maybe she was harmless. Lonely, maybe. A few days later, I was at my desk doing some reading when I happened to look out the window. It was almost midnight. The street was empty, except it wasn't. There she was, Miss Ruth, standing in the middle of the road, directly in front of my house, staring up. She wasn't on the sidewalk, not even near the curb, just right there, in the center of the street in her long nightgown, bare feet on the cold asphalt. I stared back for what felt like forever. Then, for some reason I can't explain, I waved, and I immediately wished I hadn't. She didn't wave, Dak. She didn't smile. She jumped, like a little kid getting picked first in gym class. Then she turned and ran, back toward her house, hunched and lopsided like a puppet on strings. I felt this sick, crawling feeling rise up in my stomach. I hadn't just caught her staring. I had confirmed that she was staring at me. I asked around the next day. A guy named Travis who lived in the house next door told me to just ignore her. She's always been here, he said. Best not to think too hard about her. That didn't make sense to me. Always? I had only moved in 2 months ago. Who was she? Eventually, I got a bit more out of Sarah, one of the senior residents. She said Miss Ruth was connected to the property somehow, that she was a relative of Walter, the guy who ran the place, and that she had some issues. But nothing dangerous. She's just strange, Sarah said. Harmless. I didn't buy that. Something about Ruth wasn't just strange. It was wrong. Then it got worse. One night I left my room to grab some water. As I opened the door, I nearly collided with someone in the hallway. It was Miss Ruth, standing right there. No shoes, no expression. Just still. She didn't say anything, didn't even blink. She slowly turned and walked away down the hall, her feet dragging softly on the old wood floors. The house was dead silent. It was just me and her in that moment, and that was only the beginning. I caught her snooping more than once, peering into windows, touching people's doorknobs like she was checking for an open one. Once I found her crouched in the laundry room, muttering to herself in a whispery voice, running her fingers along the inside of the dryer drum like she was tracing symbols. When she noticed me watching, she stopped moving but didn't turn around. I left fast, then I lost my room key. Now that might sound small, but trust me, it wasn't. These houses were old. Used to be a hotel way back in the day. Every room still had its own door lock. Most people didn't bother locking theirs, but I always did. I couldn't sleep otherwise. I had a spare key, but I still hated the idea of it being lost, especially with Miss Ruth lurking around. A few nights after that, I woke up out of nowhere. No sound, no nightmare, just suddenly awake. I sat there in the dark, confused. Then I heard it. Bump. A soft thud. Not loud, but definitely real. Bump. It was coming from the closet, like something inside was shifting slightly, hitting the door, every 20 seconds or so. I thought maybe a mouse had gotten in, or something had fallen from the top shelf. But then I saw the shadow. Just a little one shifting across the bottom crack under the door. Someone was in there. I felt my blood go ice cold. My breathing got shallow. I don't scare easy, but I've never felt anything like that. Like my body knew something awful was happening before my brain caught up. I crept out of bed, heart hammering. I walked over to the closet and without thinking I threw the door open and screamed. There she was. Miss Ruth. Curled up inside, her head tilted like an animal that had just been caught under the porch. One of my neckties was looped loosely around her throat. In her other hand, God, she held a knife from the kitchen. Her eyes were wide, not surprised, but focused. Like this had all gone exactly how she planned. She lunged at me. I screamed again, this time in raw panic, and grabbed her wrists. We both went crashing to the floor. I wrestled the knife away. Thankfully, she was frail, lighter than I expected, but she fought back. She bit my shoulder, scratched at my arms, all while making this strange choking sound. Not quite a scream, not quite a laugh. I shouted for help. Doors slammed open. My housemate Adam ran in and helped me pin her down. Someone called the cops. They arrested her on the spot. She didn't say a single word, not to us, not to the police. Just stared off into the distance like she wasn't really there. The scariest part? They found my missing room key in her pocket. A few weeks later, the truth came out. Walter, remember him, the property manager, had been letting Miss Ruth, his aunt, live in the house secretly. She wasn't on any lease. She wasn't paying rent. She had been in and out of mental hospitals for years. Instead of getting her real help, Walter had just stashed her in one of the empty rooms. Figured no one would notice. He got arrested too, for negligence, endangerment, and a bunch of other stuff. Good. I don't hate Miss Ruth. In some weird way, I even feel sorry for her. But none of that changes the fact that she nearly killed me. And I still don't know why she chose me. Why she watched me. Why she wanted me gone. Or worse. I'm graduating this spring, and while I've got some good memories from Ash Pines, I'll always carry this one with me. No matter where I go, I'll never forget that cold night, the bumps in the dark, and the shadow waiting behind the closet door. Okay, so this isn't technically my story, but I saw the whole thing play out with my own two eyes. Front row seat. And honestly, it's been stuck in my head ever since. It happened just last year, in our quiet little neighborhood of Maple. hollow. The kind of place where people wave when they drive by and gossip over hedge trimming. Or at least that's how it used to be. I live with my brother Carl. We've been here for over 25 years. He moved in with me after our parents passed, and neither of us ever had the urge to leave. It's a simple life. I work from home, Carl's retired, and we spend most of our time tending the garden, walking the dog, or sitting out on the porch, sipping iced tea or hot coffee depending on the mood. The house across from us had been empty for months. Dusty windows, an overgrown lawn, and this eerie way of looking abandoned even in daylight. So you can imagine my surprise when, out of the blue, someone actually moved in. It was a young guy. Looked to be around 25, maybe 26. Real clean-cut, sharp jawline, always dressed like he was heading to a nightclub. Designer shoes, bright shirts, sunglasses even on cloudy days. He drove a black Tesla that practically glowed at night. We later learned his name was Ryan. He was nice enough. Introduced himself the day after moving in, said he worked in digital branding and freelanced for influencers. Carl and I just smiled and nodded like we knew what that meant. He had this easy charm, real smooth talker, and he got along great with Carl. They'd talk football for hours like they were old buddies. For a while, everything was normal. Ryan would wave every morning as he pulled out of the driveway, music thumping through his car like a rolling concert. At night, we'd see the blue glow of his TV through the living room window. Then came her. The first time I saw her, she was pulling into Ryan's driveway in a little red Mini Cooper. She stepped out wearing this tight black dress and these shiny boots that clicked loudly on the pavement. Blonde hair, long, almost too long. She looked like she belonged on a magazine cover, but there was something off about her. Something in her eyes, like she was looking through everything. She had a key too, let herself right in. At first I figured she was his girlfriend. Young love, right? But things got strange. She'd show up when Ryan wasn't home, always when he was gone. She'd go inside, stay for hours, then leave without a word. No knock on the door, no packages or deliveries, just enter and exit. Over time, her visits got more frequent, sometimes twice in one day. I told Carl something didn't feel right. He said I was being dramatic. Maybe I was, but I started watching closer. One day, I saw her carry something inside. A small black bag. She was looking around nervously like she thought someone might be watching her. Spoiler, I was. Then one afternoon I heard shouting. I was weeding the front flower bed, and their voices echoed off the houses. Ryan and the girl were out front, standing on his porch. She was yelling, full-on screaming, her face red and twisted. Ryan looked scared, actually scared. She shoved him, and he stumbled a bit before grabbing her wrist, trying to calm her down. She ripped her arm away, stormed off, and peeled out of the driveway so fast I thought she was going to flip the car. After that, things got even weirder. I'd still see her car, still see her going inside when Ryan wasn't home. But now, she'd stay longer, hours. Once, she came out carrying a box. Another time, I swear I saw her messing with the back of his TV, like unscrewing something. I told Carl again that something was wrong. He rolled his eyes and told me to stop spying on the neighbors. Then came the night. It was cold. The kind of night where the air feels heavy and still. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of sirens. Blue and red lights were flickering through my bedroom curtains like a strobe light. I bolted out of bed, ran to the window and saw Ryan's house lit up like a crime scene. Carl and I threw on jackets and rushed outside. A few other neighbors were already out, standing in the street in their pajamas. There were 3 police cars, an ambulance, and some kind of unmarked van. We stood there watching in stunned silence. That's when they brought her out. The girl. blonde hair now a tangled mess. Her dress was torn. She had blood on her hands, not her blood, and this blank, glassy look in her eyes. She didn't resist. Didn't say a word. Just walked with the officers like she'd done this before. Then came Ryan. They rolled him out on a stretcher. His face was swollen, one eye blackened, and there was blood all down his neck and chest. I heard the EMT say he had stab wounds, multiple. I nearly threw up right there on the lawn. He didn't come back for a long time, maybe 2 weeks. When he did, he looked like a ghost. Pale, thin, like he hadn't eaten in days. Carl and I went over to check on him. He let us in without hesitation and told us everything. The girl's name was Lila. She wasn't supposed to have a key. She had stolen a spare and made a copy. She'd been showing up when he was gone, digging through his stuff. She had installed tiny cameras around his house, inside his bedroom, hidden in light fixtures, behind picture frames. She was tracking him through a location-sharing app. He didn't even know it was turned on. She watched him eat, sleep, even shower. The night of the stabbing, he had told her he wanted to break up for good. She begged, cried, then snapped. She waited until he was asleep, came back with a knife, and tried to kill him. He managed to fight her off barely, called 911 while bleeding all over his floor. She confessed to everything, said she couldn't stand to be ignored, that if she couldn't have him, no one could. He told us the creepiest part. She had friends, girls just like her. She once bragged about how they all help each other when someone gets dumped, how they share everything, even passwords. Ryan moved out a week later, said he didn't feel safe, said he thought they might still be watching. His house has been empty ever since, and sometimes, on especially quiet nights, I swear I see that red Mini Cooper driving down the street. Just once. Never stops, never parks. But it's her. I know it's her. So yeah. I keep the curtains closed now, and I double-check the locks every night, because once someone like that knows where you live, you never really feel alone again. The house next door, it was the fall of 1998 when I moved into a small, quiet town called Brookvale. I was 27, single, and trying to leave behind some messy parts of my past. Stuff I won't go into here, but let's just say I needed a clean break. A fresh start. Brookvale felt like the right choice. Peaceful streets, lots of young families, and houses with enough space between them so you didn't feel like someone was breathing down your neck. It was perfect, mostly, except for one weird thing, the house next to mine. It was huge, way too big for the neighborhood and oddly close to my place, like someone had built it before zoning laws existed. It looked like it belonged to a rich uncle with a dozen kids and a private pool. Naturally, I figured a big family lived there. Grandparents, little ones running around, maybe even a nanny or two. I couldn't have been more wrong. Since I was the new guy, I figured I should introduce myself to everyone. I made the rounds, shook some hands, smiled a lot. Everyone seemed nice, especially the moms and dads with their toddlers bouncing around. Most folks were older than me, though, and had that I have my life together energy that made me feel like a bit of a slacker. By the time I made it to the big house next door, I was exhausted from all the chit-chat, but I didn't want to keep putting it off. So I walked over, climbed the long driveway, and knocked on the front door. I expected some middle-aged dad in loafers. Instead, a young guy, probably my age, maybe a little younger, opened the door. He had messy dark hair, wore a vintage rock band tee, and rocked a mullet like it was still cool. He looked more like someone I'd see at a concert than in a fancy neighborhood like this. He gave me a big grin and said, Whoa, someone under 40? That's a first, I laughed. Yeah, I've been feeling a little out of place. Everyone's got kids and soccer games. I just wanted some peace and quiet. He nodded and said, most people around here keep to themselves. You'll be fine. He told me his name was Eli, and I introduced myself, Jay. He seemed cool, chill, even. I said something like, we should hang out sometime, kind of half joking. To my surprise, he said, sure, but then immediately added, not tonight though, got work. I asked what he did. His face changed a bit, like I'd touched a nerve. I work in logistics, he said, short and vague. No follow-up. We chatted a bit more. I asked if he lived with anyone, and he said no. Alone. In that giant house. That threw me. I mean, sure, I was living solo too, but my place was cozy. Eli's was like a mansion. It didn't add up, but I didn't press. He gave me his number and said we'd hang out soon. Spoiler, we never did. I texted him a few times after that, trying to plan something. Every time he had an excuse. Too busy. Maybe next week. Crazy work stuff. Eventually, I stopped trying. He didn't seem like a jerk. Just not interested. But then I noticed something strange. He never left the house. Ever. His car was always in the same spot. No food deliveries. No mail pickups, no visitors. It was like he lived in a bubble. I work from home, and my upstairs office has a window that faces Eli's house. So yeah, I'd glance over sometimes. It was hard not to. Then one night, this part still makes my skin crawl. I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of loud music. I sleep with my window cracked open so it came in loud and clear. At first, I thought it was just a dream. But when I looked outside, I saw it. Eli's driveway packed with cars. At least 7. Lights flashing inside. The bass from the music thumping like a heartbeat. He was throwing a party, which didn't make sense. He never had people over. Never. Figured I'd go over and ask them to turn it down, politely. I tossed on a hoodie and made my way across the yard. The weirdness started immediately. I knocked. No one answered. I knocked again. Nothing. The music kept playing, and through the windows I could see light, movement, shadows, but no faces. I pulled out my phone to text Eli, but stopped. He'd just say he didn't hear me or some other excuse. The next morning I went over again, more curious than annoyed. Knocked hard, still no answer. Then, just for the heck of it, I tried the doorknob. It turned. The door creaked open. Inside, the first thing I saw was a pile of shoes. Tons of them. Men's, women's, some that looked brand new, others worn out. But the house was silent. Empty. No people, no cups, no food, no trash. Just the faint sound of that same party recording. Laughter, clinking glasses, upbeat chatter, playing somewhere deeper in the house, and then it hit me. It wasn't a party. It was a recording of a party. Someone had faked it. Why? Who goes through the trouble of staging a fake party in the middle of the night? I should have left, but curiosity got the better of me. I walked deeper inside, drawn to a half-open door that led to the basement. The air got colder as I went down. My footsteps on the stairs felt loud, like I was disturbing something I shouldn't. There was a faint light down there, dim and yellow, like from an old bulb. Then I heard another sound. A low, grinding noise. Rhythmic, mechanical, like a saw. Or a giant meat grinder. I moved slowly toward the light, peered through a crack in the door. 3 men were standing in the middle of the room, facing away from me. They were older, wearing goggles, thick gloves, and heavy-duty work clothes. Their boots looked caked in something dark. maybe mud, or worse. They weren't talking, just staring at something across the room I couldn't see. And the smell. Oh man, it hit me all at once like bleach metal and something else I can't describe, something foul. It twisted my stomach. That's when I knew, really knew I needed to leave. I turned to go. But as I started back toward the stairs, I felt the air shift. The light behind me dimmed like someone had quietly shut the basement door. I didn't wait. I ran, took the stairs 2 at a time, flew out the front door. I didn't even bother with the sidewalk. I jumped my fence, landed in my backyard, slipped in through my side door, and locked it tight behind me. I was shaking, sweaty. My heart was in my throat. I ran upstairs to my office and dropped below the window, peeking just enough to see Eli's house. It looked still, until about 5 minutes later. Then the front door flew open and a bunch of guys, at least 8, rushed out. Not Eli. These were older men, the same kind I saw in the basement. They scanned the lawn, the street, like they were looking for someone, like they knew someone had been there. 2 of them started arguing. One shoved the other, but eventually they all went back inside. The fake party sounds stopped, and then nothing. The next morning, all the cars were gone. Eli's too. I couldn't focus on work. I kept checking his house every few minutes. Days passed, still no sign of him. Eventually I asked some neighbors if they'd heard anything that night. The party, the music. No one had. They looked at me like I was nuts. That was months ago. Eli still hasn't come back. His grass is knee-high, and there's a pile of packages rotting on his porch. Not a single person has gone to check. Sometimes, late at night, I stare out my office window and wonder what I saw. Or what I almost saw. Was it a front for something illegal? Was Eli part of it, or just a pawn? And why fake a party so convincingly only to leave the front door unlocked? Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe someone got in trouble for that. Maybe that's what those men were arguing about. I still don't know. And I'm not sure I want to. If Eli ever comes back, I don't know what I'll do. Ask him what the hell happened, or act like I never saw a thing.